Do you want to know one of the craziest things about our brain? It tells us the events that happen in our lives are actually the cause for how we feel. And what's funny about that is it's not the event that happens, it's how we relate to it. For example, you might think this person didn't call you back because they hate you, when instead you might consider that they might have a lot of things going on in their lives. Or you might think that you didn't get that job because you're worthless and that you'll never get a job. Instead of, maybe I need to brush up on my interview skills or shore up part of my resume. Or you might feel sad because you look around and you see that everyone is happy except for you. And instead, you might consider that everyone in life has ups and downs. And right now, maybe this is a hard moment for you. And when you actually look around with clear eyes, you'll see that other people are also having hard moments. Mind traps are these habitual styles of thinking that get us caught in a cascading snowball of thoughts, emotions, sensations, and inevitably lead to greater mental illness around anxiety, depression, addictive behaviors, re-traumatizing ourselves. And so that reduces our potential success both in our professional lives and our personal lives. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 major mind traps that keep us stuck and how we can use a simple technique to loosen our grip on them, get some more perspective so we can not only change the way we think, but also how we feel. Stay tuned. And if you're new here, then my name is Dr. Elisha Goldstein. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm the author of multiple books on this topic about how to use our mind to relate to our lives differently, to discover more freedom around conditions like stress, anxiety, or depression, or overwhelm. And if you're someone who is ready to refuse to let anxiety or any of this control your life anymore, then you're going to want something that's simple and step-by-step to move through. So I created a program called 21 Days to Relieve Anxiety Naturally. In this program, you'll get a simple teaching and a practice every day to allow you to train your brain on how to relate to all this differently so you can also get more perspective, feel a greater sense of personal control and mastery over your mind and your life. So if you're ready for that and you want something that's really affordable, go ahead and investigate further. Click on the link in the description below. In talking about these 5 mind traps that keep us stuck, keep our lives limited, and keep us in states of suffering at times, there's a wonderful poem by a woman, Portia Nelson. You're going to want to take the next minute just to listen to this poem because this is going to be everything about how you use these mind traps to get freedom from them. This poem is in the book The Now Effect. And if you do have this book, it's on page 81. So I'm going to read it to you and just see what you notice as you listen to this. Okay. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I am in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk in. That's chapter 4. Chapter 5. I walk down a different street. So what does that say? It says that we have mental habits, and these mind traps are just that. They're just habits, and habits can be broken. And so I want you to open up just with the first step of hope around that and seeing that it's a process to be able to unfold that. So I'm going to teach you about these 5 major mind traps right now, and I want you to know that your job is going to be in recognizing them, but knowing that there's a process to getting mastery around them. And so we'll do that. Okay. So the first major mind trap that billions of people around the world have is one that you may have heard of before, or I'm just helping you bring it top of mind, or it may be news to you, is one called catastrophizing. So what's catastrophizing? Catastrophizing is the brain's survival mechanism to be able to look for the worst case scenario so that we can prepare and plan for it so we don't get caught off guard with it. It plays the what if game. What if this happens? What if that happens? So we might be preparing for a presentation and we say, well, what if my boss doesn't like it? What if I forget a line and I make a fool out of myself? And so what does that do? Kicks up the nervous system, makes us really anxious and feel overwhelmed. Or we might say, I know I need to start a new exercise regime. What if I fail at it? What if I do it and I get hurt? And so in doing that, it creates this sense in our brain, this is going to be really hard, or there's going to be a huge failure in front of me. And so it either, again, makes us anxious or it makes us feel overwhelmed. And so we just back off from it and we avoid it. So what do we want to do with that? The number one thing we want to do with any of these mind traps to begin with is start with naming them. By naming them, what we do is we bring blood flow to our prefrontal region right here, which is more involved with emotion regulation and impulse control. And it gives us a bit of perspective and freedom in the beginning. So just to begin with, I'm going to be teaching you different simple techniques as we go through these mind traps. But the first one is just really naming it. And so start with that. So catastrophizing, the first one. Again, if you experience this, you're not alone. Billions of people experience this. This is why this is included in the top 5 mind traps for all of humanity. So the next one, exaggerating the negative and discounting the positive. What does this mean? This is where we say something positive, but something negative. We might say, I'm doing better at work, but I still make a lot of mistakes. Or I gave that presentation and it seemed like a lot of people like it, but my boss seemed to be frowning. Or all week long I've been eating pretty healthy, but on Sunday I ate that huge dinner. Whatever it might be, what happens is when we say something but, we say a positive but a negative, what happens is it discounts the positive to our brain. So we start perceiving ourselves as sort of failures in that moment. When in reality, one of the tricks to play with this is we want to say, we want to hold balance. We don't want to have rose-colored glasses on. So we want to say the first statement, switch the but with an and then you can say the negative statement. It's okay to include it, but see what happens when you switch the but with an and. You get a little bit more balance, a little more perspective. And so we want to kind of play with that cognitive distortion by shifting that middle word with but to and. Okay, the next one, mind reading. This is when we are sure we know what the other person is thinking about. So for example, you're walking down the street and it's a sunny day, or you're looking around, you're feeling the breeze. Someone is walking towards you. As they get closer, you see it's a friendly acquaintance. And you smile and you wave, and they just look at you and walk on by. Immediately you think, what did I do wrong? What happened? Or what's wrong with me? Or this person must hate me. And instead of thinking maybe the person was worried or something was on their mind, or maybe they just didn't see me. So in mind reading, what we're doing is we're taking a thought in. It's usually a negative thought. We're convinced about it in that moment. And then we have a certain feeling about it, which might lead to certain actions afterwards that, we will later regret. And so that will only feed the negative feeling and these negative thoughts. So consider that for a moment. Mind reading. Anytime you're convinced that you know what someone else is thinking, just pause for a moment and say to yourself, oh, maybe so, maybe not. So play with that. Maybe so, maybe not, and see how that feels. So because ultimately, none of us have a crystal ball. Number 4, the shoulds. We've heard this phrase before, stop shoulding on ourselves. And so there it is. We oftentimes should on ourselves. We say something should be a certain way. We say our kids should listen, or our parents should stop telling us what to do, or this person at work should be more courteous. And so by doing that, we create this very rigid sense of attention. And an event happens and we get really irritated by it, or we get really sad about it, or we get really upset about it because we're convinced of this thought. When in reality, it's very similar to mind reading in some way, but it's not necessarily thinking what another person should be thinking. Instead, we're saying an event or something should be a certain way, or I should be a certain way. I should be better at this by now. I've been playing guitar, or I've been at my job for this long. I should be better at it right now. Or I've been doing this program. I should be further along at this point. And ultimately see what the outcome of that is. Everything works off of cause and effect. So that should makes me feel bad, makes me feel sad, makes me feel shame. Something's wrong with me. I'm defective, I'm deficient in some way. So whenever we say should, we want to reverse it. for a moment. Play with this. Take note of it. Remember, the first step is recognizing, right? Take note of it and say, reverse it. Why shouldn't my child be acting courteous right now? Or why shouldn't I be further along at this job? Or why shouldn't my parents be just letting me do whatever the heck I want? And so consider that. Or you might, to say it differently, you might just reverse the other end of it. You may say, why should my kids be acting out right now? Why should my parents be giving me boundaries and rules? Why should I be a little bit behind in this program that I'm in? And ask yourself that question with intention. And you might say like, okay, well, I've had a lot of things going on in my life. And, there's been a lot of stress and overwhelm. So I couldn't get to everything. Or maybe, I didn't make this a priority enough. And what I need to do going forward is I need to put this in my calendar and make it more of a priority. Or maybe my parents should be giving me boundaries because there's certain things I don't know yet and I need to learn. Or my kids should be acting out right now because I haven't been able to spend a lot of time with them and they're really trying to get my attention. Or of course they have a lot of wiggles at bedtime and they don't really want to go to bed. They want to be playing more. That doesn't mean there doesn't need to be boundaries, but that's why. So what that allows us to do is balance out our emotions a little bit, get a little bit more perspective. And so just reversing that should can help us do that. So the fifth mind trap, and probably the most destructive one, is blaming. Blaming is when we're having a really uncomfortable feeling, an event doesn't go our way, and we have an uncomfortable feeling, and we have to release it onto other people, blaming other people. With blaming, there's always someone or something outside of yourself responsible for your suffering or pain. And we can't change other people. We can only change ourselves and learn and grow ourselves. And so by blaming other people, we strip ourselves of the ability to be able to get personal control, to be able to change the circumstance that's here. If you perceive that the solution lies outside of you, then you strip yourself of the ability to actually create change. So consider this in light of Portia Nelson's 5 chapters. So she says, hey, in light of any of these 5 mind traps, we can look at them and say, all right, yes, blaming, that's the one that is for me. I oftentimes, let's say, blame myself. Again, that's not healthy either, because then what happens is we have this self-critical voice always coming in. We get shame. It amplifies our stress, triggers more anxiety, depression, addictive behaviors, these things like that. Instead, what we need is to recognize that, hey, I was doing the best I can, and that was a really hard moment, and I didn't live up to an expectation that I had, and so what can I learn from that and do it differently next time? And now that I'm not feeling well, how do I take care of myself to be able to come stronger so that I can be stronger in the moments that follow? But in respect to Portia Nelson's 5 chapters, we say, okay, you know what? Yeah, catastrophizing. That's the one for me. That's the one of these 5 mind traps, that's the one that hits me the most, or I recognize all of these, but pick a few of them and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be on the lookout for them, and the first thing I'm going to do is name them. So that's the first thing. Bring more blood flow to the prefrontal region, create space between the stimulus and response, and allow ourselves to regain a sense of personal control. So I'm going to say catastrophizing, or there's mind reading, whatever it might be, and be able to just do the first step, which is really recognizing it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to soften our bodies, we're going to release, because we were holding it in our nervous system, so we're going to wiggle it out for a moment. And then we're going to insert one of these things that we've been talking about here. So if it's with exaggerating the negative and discounting the positive, we might take a moment, recognize it, release, and then say it again, but insert and instead of but. Or if it's with mind reading, we might name it, and we might say, all right, is there another way I can see it? See this thing right now. Different ways of working with these different mind traps are going to support you, but the first step is in recognizing them. Which one of these actually speaks to you in your life? This seems the most destructive for you in your life. And remember, you're going to take note of it. You're going to walk down the street. You're going to fall in many times. At some point after naming it and being able to kind of wiggle it out and release it a little bit and be able to insert this remedy for it, like with blaming, it might be to notice that your mind is doing this, and then be able to say to yourself, okay, so where's my responsibility in this? So the question for you is, which one of these mind traps do you connect with the most? Which one of these do you feel actually makes an impact? Go ahead and comment in it below to let us know, hey, this is the one that grabs me. So we get a sense that, hey, these are common. We're not alone in these. How does it impact you? You might even write. And then your job in this is very much in line with Portia Nelson's poem, which is to start with just recognizing it. You might not recognize it until after you fell in the pothole. But recognize when you say, it is my responsibility, the responsibility lies in recognizing that this is just a mind trap. That's all it is. It's not reality. And then we want to say, okay, so what's the remedy with this? The first step is in the recognition of it. And the next step is different for each one. So for example, with exaggerating the negative, discounting the positive, we might take a note of it and then swap out the but with an and. With catastrophizing, we might just recognizing the snowballing that's happening. And we might say to ourselves, all right, what's another way that I can see this? Or with mind reading, same thing. We might say like, oh, well, what's another explanation for why the person just looked at me and walked on by? Or another explanation for why the person didn't call me back, or whatever it might be, right? And so we're saying, what's another explanation? But first, we need to step into the space between stimulus and response by recognizing, releasing a little bit in our bodies, and then asking the question, what's another way that I can see this? If you play with that, you may fall in the pothole a few times, but recognize like, hey, it's my responsibility. I can play with these mind traps. I can play with them a little bit in a different way to get more freedom, feel a sense of personal control. And when we say, hey, is there another way that I can see this? We might realize that we start to feel a greater sense of joy, and there's more moments of feeling happier in our everyday lives. So go ahead and play with this. If there was something that touched you here, or was insightful here, or was helpful for you in any way, don't forget to like this video. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. We put out great mental health tips every single week. It's only gonna make the days of your lives better. And otherwise, I'll leave a few videos on the other end of this over here. If you wanna work closer with me, I have an incredible personal coaching program. I call it a mental health accelerator called Uncover the Power Within. And you're welcome to also click on the link in the description for that below. Otherwise, yeah, go hang out and check out these other few videos on the other end and see if they come to actually enrich the moments and days of your life ahead. See you next time.